Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to take time to say goodbye to the TV series The Sinner. And really quickly, if you're unfamiliar with The Sinner is, it is this crime drama, mystery crime drama that follows a detective, Harry Ambrose. The series itself is actually an anthology. Every season, Harry investigates a new case. He's typically the only recurring character that you follow across all of the series. There might be some pop-ins here and there, and it's not like they're completely isolated stories. They're kind of built upon each other, specifically Harry's story, what he experiences in each case, and his own personal thing that he brings to the cases and takes from the cases kind of carries on with them. But typically, they're very isolated stories. Well, what makes this crime drama, I think, very unique in its approach of how it handles things, it's not so important about who did it and how, but more so why. Because from the very beginning across every season, you typically will know who did it and how they did it, but it's all about understanding the motive, because Harry wants to understand these people and understand, because like in the first season, it was about a woman named Cora who randomly like went in a trance, killed a guy on a beach, and you're like, well, what was that about? And the entire season is unraveling her story, finding out about her backstory, understanding what led to that point. And every season subsequently it's like that. But what I think the show does so uniquely is that every season isn't an exact carbon copy. Like how they handle it changes from season to season, and to the point like they changed the structure and how they approached it in season 2. Then they changed it even more in season 3, and then in season 4 they kind of flipped it on its head. So I think it's such an interesting element of how they handle that very thematic element, and having once again this very consistent character Harry, who has his own demons, who has his own past, his own issues, but he takes such investment in these cases that's why I say they kind of pull something out of him. He has a connection with these people, these sinners to some extent. And obviously that could be like a triple entendre, really. It could be the person who committed the murder as the sinner, but also the people who were killed, like they have some sins of their own that are tied all in this together. And also, you know, it all can go also contrast with Harry's own, you know, sins to some extent, you know? So I should also mention, like, obviously this show is not a feel-good show, which I'm sure you're like, duh, it's a crime drama, like, why would it be? It's like, but the thing is, like, this show is it can be very melancholy, very bleak in some regards. It's not like you walk away every season like, oh man, there's some silver linings, but the stories are typically very depressing. I mean, there is this element of the resolutions not always, tend to kind of lean in, like I said, the more silver lining aspect of it. It's almost like the darkness given way to a little bit of light, you know. But I still say these shows are very bleak. This show is very bleak. Most stories are, but I do believe it is just a great series. Sadly, it was canceled. Was it 2021? In the middle of, it was like actually not even the middle. I think it was like nearing the end of its final, it was in the middle of its 4th season. I think it only had like 2 or 3 episodes left when USA ended up canceling it. Now, because of the structure of the show, every season ends off in a way, because it's an anthology, and every season revolves around a case. Like, the fact is, it ends, even though it got canceled, it still ends up off enough of a spot you're like, oh, it's very satisfying, because that's just the structure of the show. But this particular case had a very particular ending, kind of, but it still, once again, leaves you with that bittersweet taste in your mouth, because you're like, once again, these cases always had like this very depressing element to it. So it is a show that I think I've talked about this before. I think the show needed just one more season to completely wrap stuff up, just because there was some Harry stuff that was never like fully dived into. Every season you get a little bit more about Harry, just a little bit here and there, especially some of his like stuff with his family, especially stuff with his mom. And we didn't get complete closure on that, but we got closure enough, because I think it's also about Harry's closure with the cases and what closure that brings to him when it comes to his own demons, his own, you know, stuff that he's dealing with. So when it comes to streaming services, I could be mistaken, but I do believe the show is still on Netflix. I don't know if there's any other streaming services it's on, but I believe it's still there. All 4 seasons, I believe. I would also recommend, like, if you are like curious to check the series out and you're just like, oh, like, there's always the physical element of it, just because, you know, we've seen recently with certain elements how digital can just like kind of be snatched away from you, just from everyone, like everyone could get kind of caught on off guard by that. And also you have to remember too, it's Netflix, so they will eventually be like, yeah, we don't want to pay the licensing rights to this anymore because it's not worth it anymore. So that's actually a larger conversation I actually have for the next video I'm going to be recording, but that's not neither here nor there. If there are any other streaming services besides Netflix, I will include annotations to them. Because despite, you know, it is a great show, but once again, it is a bleak show in some regard. So that is something I would kind of forewarn you. But I know for some people they might have fallen off the show, because I know there was a big gap between season 2 and 3. I think that was mainly pandemic reasons. I think there is some breaks in between some of the seasons, like maybe, I don't remember if there was a big, I feel like there was only like a year maybe between 1 and 2, but definitely 2 and 3 there was a bigger break, so some people may have fallen off. I highly recommend, if you, for whatever reason you did like maybe stop this season 2, I highly recommend you do like go back. Like season 3 and 4 are very great in how they approached everything, and like Harry's part playing those cases, and just the cases in general. And also, if you've just never seen the show, I highly recommend you check it out, especially if you're looking for something more crime drama element. Once again, I can't stress this enough, don't expect this to be a happy-go-lucky story. It can be pretty depressing stories. Do keep that in mind. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.